And now, another informative video from the NASA archives.
Now, Apollo 13 has had a lot of exposure in several books, even a Hollywood movie, so I'll try to do a little reading between the lines that maybe some of you have not heard about or seen. Approaching this mission, I had been a backup on two previous missions. I backed up Bill Anders on Apollo 8 and Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11. And so we were coming up. This was going to be the 7th flight of the program, and the hardware and things looked like they'd settled down, and we had a good ship ready to go, and hoping to have a good mission. I should have known that something wasn't quite normal in the week before launch, when we were all exposed to measles through Charlie Duke going to a birthday party with his son. So we spent the early part of that week, every morning they took blood samples and sent them off to some measles expert in Cincinnati, Ohio, to check our blood. And they finally came to a conclusion that Ken Mattingly was highly susceptible to come down with measles. Our crew was Jim Lovell, commander, myself, and Ken Mattingly, and we had been the backup on 11 and now had trained to fly 13. Ken had never been married, had never had measles as a child. And incidentally, today I think he's 2 years younger than me, so he's 84 and has never had measles to date. But at any rate, they made a decision 2.5 days before launch to change out a crew member. Now, you might think that's a hazard in a sense of mission success or safety or whatever, but as a backup, I can tell you, I trained to the point I felt confident I could replace the prime crew on either of the two backups that flew, because that's the way we trained. So actually, you could change out a whole crew in the week before launch. But at any rate, it was an emotional thing. Because as a backup, I'd found as you got close to launch within, say, a month away, you figured by then that the prime fellow wasn't going to break his leg, and so you weren't going to get to go. And so you'd done all this work and getting ready, and you knew you weren't going to go, so you kind of backed away mentally from thinking you're going to fly the mission. Whereas the reverse was true, I think, for when you really know you're going to go, you really start getting excited about it. And looking at that booster out on the pad all lit up at night, thinking you're about ready to finally get your chance. And so that was a very emotional swap between those two individuals 2.5 days before launch. And unfair in a way, because Ken had guests coming to the launch that now weren't going to see him launch. He had prepared a personal preference kit. We were allowed to take things to fly, and his was all packed on board. Conversely, Jack didn't have the time to get all his girlfriends there. He was a bachelor, and make the rounds like I did with family and friends to think of things I might take with them on the flight. So it was more of that kind of a thing, not a fact that we were worried about Jack filling in and doing the job. Now, it did require us, we were in simulators till about 8 o'clock the night before launch, mainly going through the dynamic phases of launch, entry, rendezvous, etc., where we had to work together. And even though as crews we'd use the same checklist, same flight plan, we wanted to make sure there was not some comment or discussion between the crew that was different than what we had done and within our crew context. So anyway, that was it. We got ready to go and had a good lift off. And again, second stage, we got up to a point and one engine quit a little over 2 minutes early, center engine on the second stage. Now, it was interesting, later I talked to Dick Smith when he was Center Director at Kennedy, and he had been the Saturn manager. Dick told me we'd encountered POGO, again, that dynamic fluid instability oscillation, and he said there was enough structural deformation they had seen in cruciform structure on the second stage. Had it gone much further before the engine shut down, the Apollo 13 movie might have been a very short movie.